So here we have the Fool, and it is the most packed with symbolism. It has a lot of things to unpack. First is that the figure of the Fool is the April's Fool, Dionysus, Bacchus.
Oh.
And he or they, because it is depicted as hermaphrodite, because of the boobs you can see, and also the phallic sun in the middle, they are jumping out of the card. And one thing that I actually managed to see live, first time seeing this, is that the beginning point is Kether, the Sephirah number 1, and there is like an ensuing, and it virals out and jumps out of the picture, and that is the projective geometry that Frieda Harris has used, and I don't have the words to explain what that is. You can only watch and see how the spiral is a reflection of the 3 veils of negativity around the tree of life. And on the left hand, they are holding a cone of fire, and on the right hand, they are holding the Holy Grail, which the dove is coming out of, and it is followed by the vulture, which is Maat, the goddess of justice and air in the Egyptian myth, and the butterfly, which is the notion of transformation, and finally the caduceus, and they all culminate in the heart of the Fool. And the thing that comes out of the heart is also the vine, which is a leaf sacred to Bacchus, and also, of course, the grapes, which is for Dionysus. And they are holding this bag, which is a node to the original image of the Fool. They're always holding a bag, and inside there are rune-shaped things with the images of the zodiac inside them. It can be many things. I personally think it is the knowledge of their own birth chart. So it's the only thing that a Fool brings is what they know about themselves. And behind them there is the gold element of air, and there are little snippets of dice which are representation of the Kether, the diamond. I forgot to say my favorite quotes from the Fool. Of all the magical and mystical virtues, of all the graces of the soul, of all the attainments of the spirit, none has been so misunderstood, even when at all apprehended, as silence. The notion of silence, both in the sense of I will not speak of my knowledge, and also that I have no knowledge, and also that no knowledge exists, they all reside in the silence. And I love this notion because it is really close to my own practice as a Sufi, where silence is the highest peak of attainment. Card number 10, the Wheel of Fortune, where Crowley calls it just fortune. It's attributed to letter Kaf, which means the palm of the hand, and Jupiter, the planet. And here we have 2 wheels. One is the wheel that is a bit horizontal, and one that is vertical. And I see the horizontal wheel as the firmament of the sky, and we have the 10 Sephiroth as the 10 stars at the top. And this wheel represents the microcosm, the self, the person, our modes and our ideas. And how it always changes and evolves is shown with the 3 animals that you see here. We have the Sphinx at top, Hermanubis on left, and Typhoon on the right. And they represent the 3 gunas in the Indian philosophy, and also the 3 phases of matter in alchemy. And basically, Sphinx is balance, Typhoon is inertia and darkness, and Hermanubis means movement and activity. So we are either trying to get things done, or we are happy and doom scrolling, or we just go down into depression. And that is the cycle that keeps happening to all of us. And the beautiful thing that I see with these waves is that Frieda Harris wanted to depict the Milky Way galaxy, which, well, not the picture of the Milky Way galaxy, but the picture of another galaxy was published recently. So when we are talking about the Wheel of Fortune, which is a representation of the firmament of the sky, she opted for the image of the galaxies. the waves that are there. And the lightning bolts represent Jupiter, and you can see the palm of the hand here as well to nod to the Hebrew letter, which is called. The end and reward of the effort is a state of lucid quietude, which, however, tends ultimately to sink into the original inertia. Basically, Crowley represents the Wheel of Fortune as a notion that every state turns into another state and then another state, and it's always in a continuous cycle. Whereas fortune is normally shown as luck or chance, and Crowley wants to go a bit higher than that and say, even if you have good chance, you might have bad chance at a certain point. Card number 9, and it is attributed to letter Yod, which means a hand, and the curvature of the hermit is like the letter Yod as well, and the hand is at the center of the card as well. And it is attributed to Virgo, and that's why you can see the wheat grasses behind him. And the hermit has these 3 characters around it. One is the Orphic egg, which is the creation of the universe as a sexual act again, where the egg of femininity is fertilized by the snake of change, and the snake breaks the egg and creation is ensued. And then we have the Cerberus, the dog that guards the realm of the dead, and it represents the notion that this character is another form of Hermes who guides the souls to the afterlife. And finally, we have the staff of the hermit, which in the original card, there is a staff that the hermit has, but here it has been transformed into a kind of a sperm. And the image of it is a concept that is called spermatomazon. I can always difficulty saying that. And it is an idea that was before that, it was debunked at that time, but Crowley just liked to use it, that inside all of us, there is a little version of us in the sperm also. So this is super sex magic concept, and it's so difficult to explain it. But it's the notion of in the darkness of the bedroom, the sex happens and creation happens inside that. And that's what the hermit is about, the solitude and the darkness and the final act, which is the sun in the lantern. And again, the rays of the sun, they create a projective geometry notion that it's so difficult again to explain and say what it is. But the quote that I like so much about this is not in this book, it's in another book of Crowley, which is called The Wake World, and where Hermit says something and says, "My cloak is so that I keep secrets hidden, and my lamp is so that I share the secrets and make people happy, and my staff is so that I know when to use my cloak and when to use my lamp." Oh. And it's attributed to letter Nun, which means a fish, and the month of Scorpio, which you can see it's obviously Scorpio vibes. And we have the figure of death here, which is shown with the crown of Osiris, and with his psyche he is destroying souls and creating these bubbles, because it's all underwater, and these bubbles are going into the afterlife, and they're all dancing and whirling in a really beautiful way. And the fish is it's a long story to explain, but it's attributed to the letter Nun, and it's about how in Christianity the concept of the fish is related to that resurrection. So it wants to connect this concept of death not only with that, but also with the resurrection that comes after it. But more important than that, we have the Scorpio, the snake, and also the eagle, and they represent the 3 phases of the month of Scorpio, or the attitude of us humans to change. The Scorpio represents the resistance to change, because if you create a fire around the Scorpio, it stings itself and dies because it doesn't want to give in. And then the snake is the normal reaction that we all have to change, because the snake moves and then sheds its skin, thank you very much, and continues moving forward, so it's normal amount of change. And finally we have the eagle that plucks out its feathers itself so that new feathers can grow, and it gets transcended to the concept of the phoenix that burns itself alive so that it can arise anew. So this whole card is about the attitude that we have towards change and how we can transform, either by not being able to accept it and fight it, or just see it as a way of living, or embracing it ourselves fully. And then we have these two flowers here that I can never know their name, but they are painkillers basically. And here Crowley is noting to the fact that you can help with the process of your difficulty with change by getting high, basically. He is that elemental nature of things which is not destroyed by the ordinary changes which occur in the operations of nature. Death is not the element that brings us death and change. Death is that part of us that survives change and remains as what brings that change and wants us to grow further. To the Tower card, which is so beautiful and so powerful and so amazing. And at the top we have the Eye of Shiva, where the third eye of Shiva, when it opens, it destroys the world so that the new world can begin. And that's the whole vibe of the Tower card. And out of the Shiva eye comes this mouth, which is called Dis, the Greek god Dis, bringing fire to destroy the tower. And this mouth also is represented with the letter P, which means a mouth. And the planet, or the astrological attribution, is the planet Mars. And outside the tower, there are four figures jumping out, and they look like cubism characters, because they used to live in the tower, but as they jumped out of the tower, they have lost their reality and they have become abstract forms. And it's a notion that when we lose the tower, which is basically our sense of self and identity, for a period of time, we are nobody. We are in that state of transformation. And that's why these four characters are there. And finally, we have the dove bearing the olive branch and the snake, which here is shown as the abracras. And they represent really intense concepts. But basically, this card is about anal homosexual sex. And the dove represents the person who receives the penis, and the snake is about the person who gives the penis. And these are all really high-level sex magic things, which brings me to my favorite chord of this card. There is a special technical magical meaning which is explained openly only to initiates of the 11th degree of the OTO. That's the homosexual anal sex. A great so secret that it is not even listed in the official documents. Yet he talks about it here, which is cute. Perhaps it is lawful to mention that the Arab sages and the Persian poets have written, not always guardedly, on the subject. He is talking about Sufi poetry, which is about the love of the Sufi towards God. And he didn't know Farsi or Arabic, so they would read him translations. And Sufi poetry is non-gendered, because Farsi is not non-gendered. So they would translate for him, he, showing love to another he. So, and since he had trauma of the homophobic Golden Dawn, banishing him from his magical journey, he saw refuge in that Sufi poetry. And so, Sufis were fucking each other. So it's good. And that's what he's talking about here. Here we have the High Priestess. I looked at this card the most when I was watching here because it is so beautiful and new things can be seen more and more in it. It is attributed to the letter Gimel, which means a camel, as you can see here, and it is corresponding to the moon. And here we have the goddess Artemis. Yes, thank you. You can see her bow and arrow here, and she is depicted as the Oracle of Delphi. And the way that the Oracle of Delphi would work is she would be at her temple, and people would line up in front of her temple, bring her gifts, and she would have a veil in front of her, and you would come in front of her, put the gifts down, and she would bring her hands closer, create this curve, look at you in the face, and either say yes or no. And you would have the question, should I get married? Should I go on this journey or not? And you would just get your answer, yes or no, and go about your day. And here, that veil is shown as this matrix fabric of time and space, which is so beautiful. And her infinite eyes are veiled by the phases of the moon and the colors of, it's like, I can't even describe it. It's so beautiful and so amazing. And again, the projected geometry just grabs you in. And underneath her, there is the moon as well. And the figures here, Crowley talks about them as being just the moments of the creation is about to happen. And the camel, of course, represents the fact that she is the guide for going deep into your soul. And that was a really simplified version of talking about crossing the abyss, which is what this card is about. It is a condition of initiation that its keys are to be communicated by those who possess them to all true aspirants. So this character is the representation of someone who connects you to the divine, someone who has gone on the journey with the camel, and they can kind of give you some guidance onto going on that path alone. It's different from the Hierophant who, takes your hand and takes you there. They are mostly kind of like, again, an oracle or a tarot reader. I see myself as a tarot reader, as this character, that I see the divine and I tell you. And initiation means someone who goes there, so someone who has done the initiation, one of their conditions is to give the secrets to those who want it. And that's what I'm doing right now. And here we have the goddess Ma'at, the Egyptian goddess of justice, with her vulture feathers, which here is not so much vulture, but still she has her crown. And she's also merged with the character of Harlequin, because she wants to be the wife of the fool, and also Lady Liberty with her eyes being shut and blind. And she's sitting on a throne that is balanced on these planets. And she is also coming out of a kind of a matrix situation, kind of like here. So she is a really huge cosmic force that is ruling over everything in existence. And it's about balance in that sense of it. And the scales that she has is holding Alpha and Omega. So she is the personification of the fact that the universe is balanced. We are living in a world that there is the rule of cause and effect, and everything has a consequence. The letter that is attributed to it is Lamed, and the zodiac sign is Libra. So it becomes quite aligned with it. Finally, this card is called Justice in the older decks, and Crowley changed it. The main reason for him changing it is because he had a beef with Christianity, and he changed all of the Christian names of the trump cards, and he changed justice into adjustment. This card in the old pack was called Justice. This word has none but a purely human and therefore relative sense. So it is not to be considered as one of the facts of nature. Nature is not just, according to any theological or ethical idea, but nature is exact. To him, the theological or ethical ideas change over time or over different cultures. So saying justice, for one person, justice means this, for another means that. But adjustment shows that the universe is built on laws that you cannot get away from. And that's what this card is about. Here we have card number 1, the magus, which is attributed to the planet Mercury, and the letter Beth, which means a house. Here it is depicted, the magician, as Mercury or Hermes, the messenger god. You can see the feathers that they have. Again, Mercury is a hermaphrodite, kind of like the fool. They are the ones that do not have gender. The magus is depicted as someone who is juggling all of these different elements. Here we have the pentagram, which is the element of earth. Here we have the incense, which is not an element, but it is one of the elements in the altar of the magician. We have the wand, which here is depicted as the phoenix wand. We have the winged egg, another kind of the Orphic story of the creation and sex magic in another sense of it. And we have the cup, and we have the sword, the element of water and air, and the wand was fire. And at the top we have the pen and the scroll, which connects Mercury to Thoth, the god of language and the creator of all written things. And you can see from the beginning, down here, the staff goes all the way up, and we have the caduceus, the wand that you can see in ambulances. And it's the most powerful wand in all of history. And it is two snakes curling up around it, which is a notion of the feminine and masculine energies going up to the winged sun at the top. And there is a dove there, which again has sexual magic connotations with it. And the blackness at the bottom is the Malkuth of the last Sephirah of the Tree of Life, and the Kether is at the top. So there is this notion of rising above and going beyond. And finally, we have at the bottom here this figure, which is Hermanubis, that we saw in the fortune card, but here it is more about the shadow side of the magus, or the Mercury, Thoth. And the interesting thing about this is, it's so crazy. So this is the right arm of the monkey, but it has a left hand. And this is a right leg of the monkey and has a left foot. So this monkey is all left hands and left feet. And I asked everyone that I know, and no one knows if this was deliberate or it was a mistake or what is going on here. We have no idea. Especially since Frieda Harris made 7 different paintings and Crowley said, no, I don't like this, no, do it again, no, do it again. And finally ending up with this with such a mistake is a bit weird. Maybe in the future I will know what it is. And one more thing that I want to add, if you see here, you can see the sun shining there, and that shows that Mercury can never go far from the sun. It's always close to the sun. And my favorite quote from the magician is actually what I will send you off as a way to learn the tarot. The ideas connected with this symbol are so complex and so multifarious that it seems better to attach to this general description certain documents which bear upon different aspects of this card. Meaning there are a lot of things happening here that makes it so difficult to understand them. The whole will then form an adequate basis for the full interpretation of the card through study, meditation, and use. That is what we have to do with all of these cards. We study all of the symbols that I talked about, we meditate on the images, on the meanings, and we use them in readings and in our lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you.